Hi. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Art of the Game over here at Cabbit Crossing. And this is where us game masters share tips, tricks, and debates and stories. And this time we got a story, right, Woody? What are we doing today? We got a guest?
Yeah, we do. Keenan, welcome. You, anyone who's seen every episode of the show will have heard your name several times.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I've been trying to get you on for a while. Okay, so the point of this episode is actually like one of those things that happens. And so when you're running a campaign for a while, as we've mentioned before, you always have to have your eye, if you're the GM, you always have to have your eye on recruitment and bringing in players, right? Sometimes you just want to introduce a friend, give them a good time, as was my case. But sometimes you actually just need to keep outing, bringing people in because people leave, or in the case of the campaign we're mentioning, there's a person that we wish wasn't there. But anyways, so what happens is I come into your campaign. You invited me into this Pathfinder game, and I was eager to do it because I have a character I wasn't done playing. And then I had been listening to my cousin Aaron, who actually got you to run the game, talk about all of your plots for years and years and years, or however long it had been. And every time he does, I'm like, that's a sci-fi storyline. And it's like he's given me this laundry list of sci-fi's greatest hits, and these are all the stories. He's all having a great time, and I'm thinking that's what Keenan would do. And so
cats.
Got a cat. So, anyways, I come into your campaign. I enter into a situation where the party was hanging out at a castle that was run by a bunch of liches. Immediate red flag.
Yep, right. Yes, as it would be. It would be. Exactly. Liches. I mean, come on.
And one of the liches was running a dimensional portal that would go into alternate timelines, pulling his counterparts out, and was having them all work together towards something. And supposedly, this is all totally cool. And so, and apparently, the main lich was actually a good character, but this dude was doing some shit. And
the fun thing is that the main lich.
Yes.
Oh God, what was his name?
I don't remember.
Fred.
He was a follower of Dionysus, though.
Oh yeah, right. Igar Otep was his name. Right.
So, but anyways,
now, Otep was not originally supposed to be a good character at all.
Well, hold on a second, Keenan, because we have to get the punchline into the story. So before we bring you in. So what happens is that I'm watching this happen, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's cool." The whole party's going to let this keep going, and I'm like, "Whoa, what are we doing here?" And I'm like, "That's a portal, and these are liches. What is wrong with you people, right?" And these are all people that had never played before. And except for one who knew better, and I don't know what his excuse was. And so this whole experience where I'm like, we have to stop this. These are the bad guys. What is wrong with you? It's kind of like that. And then literally have this experience where everybody stops. They're looking at me, this much more experienced player. They look at me. They look at Keenan. Then they look back at me. Then they look at Keenan again, and who's somehow keeping a straight face. Then they look back at me again and go, "What should we do?" and they wanted to know why I thought this was the wrong, the course of action. I'm like, Keenan's a sci-fi fan. Everything you guys have ever done is the greatest hits of science fiction. This is a sci-fi plot dressed as fantasy. That portal is bad. And I completely derailed your campaign because it turned out I was wrong. It really was as innocent as they thought. But then Keenan had to pivot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the theme of everything I had to do to flex with my players, right? Because when my players see, this is what consistently happens. I come up with a plot line or a puzzle, a problem, a bad guy, whatever situation it is that the players have to solve. And then they either prove themselves to be far, far smarter than I could have ever given them credit for, or unbelievably dumb. And now I have to, and in either scenario, I have to flex. I have to change something to keep it interesting for those players. if it's just a solid wall of frustration, right? I'll give you an example, actually. I came up with a puzzle for my players one time. It was a locked stone door. It was a magically sealed door. And in front of the door was a pedestal, and the pedestal had a shaped divot in it, right? Where obviously you would put something, right, that would act as a key, right? And the shape corresponded with sort of a gem-like shape. And then they found a room that was full of hundreds and hundreds of gems. And they had to find the correct one, but they were all the same shape, right? Different colors and, whatnot, but they were all the same shape gem. So any one of them could have fit the lock, right?
Was it red?
Was it red? Right. Okay, I remember that joke.
Yeah.
So, hush, cat. Oh my.
Sorry about that.
I might have to put my cat in cat jail. So, the solution to this puzzle is whatever the players come up with that sounds clever. Honestly, that's what the actual solution to the puzzle is.
Well, that's actually the solution to most puzzles in RPGs is what matters is the player's participation more than whether or not the solution's correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the hidden thing behind the GM screen that you never let them see. There's things that you can let them peek at behind the GM screen, but you don't let them see that the clever solution that they came up with was not actually the solution. Sometimes I'll give them a problem I don't know the solution to, and I'll let them come up with it. I'll let them figure it out.
I do the same thing all the time.
And then whenever they do something clever or cool enough, I'll reward them with success. Right?
Well, but the thing I wanted to discuss with you, though, and hopefully get these two involved in that too, is like really kind of pivot back to the point of like, I derailed your campaign, dude. Like,
yes, you did. You absolutely
turned
derailed
it
my
upside
campaign
down, and like you couldn't go forward with the original plan after I sat down for that session.
So let me get this
that
straight.
happened like half a dozen times in that campaign.
Yeah.
Let me see if I get what you're saying, right? Because you basically went into this facility or something, and there's all these liches going back and forth through a portal, and the rest of the party's like, oh, these guys are probably fine. But you, the experienced one, is like, they're liches, it's a portal, bad things are happening, we got to kill something. And then you effectively decided they're all bad.
Yes,
and,
but there was like six counterparts to this dude running around being minions.
But the thing that makes it where you had to adapt was they weren't actually supposed to be bad, but after this happened, it's like, okay, I'll make them bad, sure.
Yes. Later on, I introduced a twist wherein the liches from the multiple timelines were actually the bad guy, and they were planning on something. They were doing something malicious, and I forget what it was, and the players had to shut down the portal. And
you had introduced a plot point where the gods don't pay attention to alternate timelines.
Is that what it was?
That was part of it.
Right. So if you want to put one over on the gods, you have to do timeline fuckery, and that gets by them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That sounds like something I would do. I forget. This campaign lasted about 3 years, but it wrapped up about 10 years ago. No, less than that. 8 or 9 years ago.
Doesn't matter.
Cause it ran from like 2014 through 2017, I want to say, kind of in there.
Are you all playing in person, or are you playing?
Yeah. We was an in-person game back when you could still do that. Yeah.
We had a cool table that we'd papered it over with this, dry erase board material. So we're using dry erase board markers.
I just used a big dry
to
erase
draw out the maps.
Yeah.
It was
but
crazy.
yeah, the point of, I think everyone does it to some degree, and those that don't probably should, because you're right. The important thing is that you get people thinking, you get people involved, you get people trying to do things in the world that you've created. And as long as they're doing that, and it seems internally consistent and nothing's like so bad that it's breaking them out of it, right? Like if like a giant Barney just hit the ground and farted or something, right? It would take you out of it. But the
it depends on adventure.
yeah. But yeah, it doesn't matter what they come up with. A lot of times, you can try to make it make sense to if it seems smart enough. But I will say, you should always go in having an idea, right? You don't want to go in being like, well, I'll see what they do with this trap. Like, let's say the gym trap. Let's say you had no idea what the solution was. I don't think it's safe to go in like that. You should have at least 1 or 2 ideas on what they could do, just in case they get stuck, and you want to try to like give them hints on where to go, maybe, because sometimes they need that. But yeah, but yeah, I do it all the time. It's like, oh well, that was much smarter than I thought. Okay, yeah, that's what it is now.
Well,
Right.
I mean, sometimes the correct answer to is yes. Like,
Yeah.
The participation's the most thing. But so Keenan, in this incident I was quoting there, though, like, I came in and I completely upended your campaign, and not only that, but like after the first game night, I also had to take you aside and give you a crash course in GMing technique. And I was super worried you were going to be offended, about all that too. Well, some people have been, like, so from the perspective of you being on the other side of this experience, though, like how was that? With having somebody actually come in and just turn your campaign upside down, because you had been doing this for a couple of years and you had a plan, and your plan just got destroyed.
By this time, I had been DMing for about a year on this campaign. I think it had been running for about a year, and my players were clever. They were very, very clever players, and they were also very easy to work with. Aaron was really nice to work with. So was Brendan. You know them.
Yeah.
You guys don't know them, but they're just nice people for the most part. Most of the people that I was working with were just nice people, and they were there to have fun and experience a good story, which is great. Like, if there's any advice I could give to new DMs, is just find good people you vibe with and play with them, because no matter what you do, it's going to work out. Honestly, is the most important ingredient to any campaign is the people in it. But after a year of doing this, I had a lot of experience with my very clever players coming up with their own solutions, their own ideas about the plot lines, the puzzles, the problems, the fights, everything. So I was kind of prepared to flex, right? I thought that your assessment that my storylines were all sci-fi storylines. At first, it didn't make sense to me because this is obviously a fantasy setting.
Yeah.
Obviously, look, there's swords and magic everywhere.
Yeah,
This is fantasy. Well, no, you were right. My actual plot devices and stories were effectively sci-fi.
Well, you write what you know, so
right. Well, because I grew up watching Star Trek and Doctor Who. I read every single scrap of Larry Niven I could get my hands on, and Heinlein and Paul Anderson and Isaac Asimov. I also read Tolkien. I also read Wheel of Time, the Robert Jordan series.
That's a long,
but
yeah,
I don't
read it all.
Did I read it all? I think I quit around book 9. Yeah,
9.
I would like to pick it up again sometime, but it's been a decade since I tried reading it. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. I might dive back into that and try to finish it.
Yeah.
I understand that Brandon Sanderson finished it off with a trilogy at the end, which is Sanderson's a fantastic writer, so I expect that to be good. But
great guy.
No, but he was right. I was writing these sci-fi storylines into a fantasy setting, which was cool. It was fun. I was having fun with that. Players were having fun with it, but also my original conception of just about every element of the story was being altered by the players. As an example, that first villain, the Lich, Igar Otep. He appeared to the players as just an old man who was maybe a little bit sinister in his affect. I think my voice acting of the character was a little bit of a tell. Good evening. I understand that you are quite skilled at acquiring rare artifacts.
Nice. He sounds like a nice guy.
He sounds like a nice guy, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's actually one of the things that's frustrating for me, Keenan, is your presentation was so good. Yeah.
The thing I hate about your campaign is you do it so well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Screw you too, but thank you. So I when the players immediately amongst themselves said, wait, okay, so this is the bad guy, right? It immediately clicked into my mind, it would be fun if actually he wasn't the bad guy. And then, we could complicate the storyline by coming up with a reason for why he's not the bad guy. And then in the end, they wind up helping this guy to basically save the world. And now they've got a powerful Lich friend who just occasionally steps into the campaign and helps out or something, right? Mm-hmm. So by letting the players influence my DMing decisions, I came up with better plots. I came up with things that were more fun for the players, generally speaking. The players were encouraged to keep being clever and keep doing interesting things with their end of the plot, and then I kept on complicating it. And that's how we ran a Pathfinder campaign with ridiculously overpowered characters and crazy convoluted plot lines, and ended up actually completing it after 3 years of run.
It's kind of like the difference between a plotter and a panzer, right? I mean, the plotter has to come up with all the things that they could do and make sure the story's buttoned down and everything, whereas the panzer, it can just, there's whatever, okay, this is what it is now, go forward with it, figure it out.
And this is a rule in writing, it's a rule in DMing, it's a rule in anything creative, really. You're going to find that there are two general approaches to how to make a story work. And I've got a writer friend of mine who calls it gardening versus architecting.
That's that's what George R. Martin? Yeah, George R. Martin was saying that.
This is gardening, yeah.
I think he got it from him, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But, an architect will plot the whole thing out from beginning to end. He will make it make sense. He'll create a framework for the whole thing that makes sense. And then he will build into it and flesh it out from there. And he will, he'll create something that, works, that's all framed out and figured out before you really even start, right? The downside to art.
Well, that doesn't really work well with GMing though, because the GMing, running an RPG runs off of more of a merchant style of storytelling.
Yeah,
you can't plan too much out in advance, or it kind of squashes the player's participation.
The downside to architecting is that it is, number one, it's a hell of a lot of prep. You have to have a lot of questions answered before you enter into an architected story. And number two, it is fragile. And when unexpected things enter into this story framework, it wants to break apart. And then it gets frustrating because whole chunks of what you've architected need to be thrown out or retooled. Mm-hmm. And that's not fun. That's not fun for the DM.
Well, that's why I strongly recommend game masters not operate that way. Yeah. You're just creating yourself grief.
Yeah, but gardening's hard. It's improv. It's highly improvisational, and that's not easy for everyone. There are people who just mentally, they just work better with things that they have architected thoroughly than they do with things that they have to.
I don't think there's truth to that for sure, but the best thing you can do when it comes to improv is to prep. And what I mean by that, it's a mentality you have to have. So if someone doesn't prep at all, and some people cannot prep at all, right? They go into a session, they know the characters, and then they improv everything. And that's fine. Some people plot they plot and plot and plot, and then they go into the session, and they should not force their plot. If things go off the rails, they improv too. Now, people who actually have trouble improving, the best thing you can do for those people is to have them plot more. Because the more you plot, the more ideas you have in your head, the more you know about your world, the easier it is to improv when you need to, right? So I don't think it's like this or that. There's definitely a scale there, and you have to know yourself and how much you need to prep. Because in my opinion, prepping is just a way to prepare for improv. And the more you prep, the easier job of improving is probably going to be. Just don't have the mindset that they have to do what you prepped. That's kind of what it comes down to.
I 100% agree. In all of my experiences as a DM, I 100% agree with all of that. When you are there, I think that good DMing is a strange alchemical mixture of gardening and architecting. You know, it's planting inside of planter boxes, and you put the boxes there, and then you plant whatever makes sense in the moment, right? And that's really fun.
Yeah.
You know, because it lets you, because when you're flexible like that, when you've got like a general framework, like you generally know where the story's going, you generally know what beats you need to hit, but you're willing to work with some freedom within each of the kind of the boxes, each of the stages of your story, then you could do weird things. You can throw just a toy into the story and let the players play with it and see what they come up with. And it doesn't necessarily tear apart your framework.
No.
That's what I love. That's why I love DMing just in general.
And the more framework you have, the more tools you have to do things as needed. Like when someone says they do something and for some reason they go to the Underdark, I don't know, they just happen to do something that got them to the Underdark they didn't expect. If you actually know things about the Underdark, if you've read stories about the Underdark, if you've prepped for the Underdark in another campaign, suddenly you have this whole toolkit to improv as needed, right? So it's kind of like a combination of the two, but it does all come down to improv. That it's so you can improv.
Well, being familiar with the lore or the rules of the genre you're in, or so it's like you shouldn't do a superhero game if you've never read a superhero comic book. You know,
which is why I never do.
Yeah. Does this program do screen sharing?
It does.
Yeah,
it does. Okay.
Yeah, present down the bottom.
Okay. I've recently started a campaign in using TailSpire as my VTT.
Oh,
what TailSpire kind of forces me to do, because I have to prep these environments for the players to play in, right? I can't just shoot from the hip and say, okay, you're in a dark cave now, unless I have the cave, right?
Right.
But what
TailSpire is the 3D one, right? It's a full 3D environment.
Yeah, you actually create the whole world.
That one does require more planning, though.
Yeah.
It requires a lot more planning. So when I was running that Pathfinder campaign years ago, the one that Woody's talking about, it was very much shooting from the hip. Just about everything was shooting from the hip. I would go to probably about 60% of my sessions completely unprepared, and pointedly so. I would walk to the table. I would have no notes and no real plan of what was going on. I just knew the characters and knew roughly where we were and what we were doing, and would sort of just do kind of flex with what the party was doing.
Well, admittedly, a lot of games, it is always going to be that way, because there will be critical decisions that influence the game, and they haven't been made yet. So there's really nothing you can prepare for except to walk in there and just be ready to roll with whatever they do.
Right.
Like it's frequently going to be like that.
There is something kind of wonderful that I can do, and that is I can throw a board at them, and I could say, okay, here's where you are. Here's your objective. Now just do whatever to accomplish it.
You're talking about TailSpire?
Yeah, and TailSpire works with that because it's a flexible enough VTT that I can, you can place the minis kind of wherever you want to, but TailSpire or no, like it doesn't matter, right? It's not TailSpire isn't the point. The point is that you can have a very meticulously prepared thing, which also can be approached and handled in a very flexible way by your players. And there's a lot of fun in that.
I think when you talk about improv and planning, I think also the rule system helps dictate that a little bit. I think D&D works best, like you guys are saying, in between. But then you run into problems with, like, suddenly they pop in somewhere where you don't have a battle map or something, especially with VTT. And that can be frustrating.
Yeah, and that's where you have to sometimes end the session and you say, well, okay, so if you're going to do that, then I'm going to have to prep for that.
Yeah.
See you guys next week.
Well, it's interesting using TailSpire, because when we were doing the Star Wars game with Greg, there was this massive library of relatively simple designs that Greg could draw upon. And sometimes at the spur of the moment without necessarily having all this planning. And, TailSpire obviously has a growing inventory of things that people have created that you can probably dip into. But it's like, I think a traditional VTT is probably a little, if you're doing it, it's probably easier to work with in terms of just being able to whip out something.
I've actually gone
packet maps.
Yeah, I've gone the opposite direction now. I actually like Owlbear Rodeo the best right now.
I like Owlcat myself.
Yeah. Well, Owlcat's a game that makes the Pathfinder video games, which are excellent. But the Owlbear Rodeo, I can just pull up a map. I can draw a texture across the whole thing. I can put Fog of War, and then I can draw out what you can see. And there you go. You have a cave, right? Like, I like the fact that you can just, it's almost like you just have a whiteboard at home if you're playing in person, and that's what everyone sees. I love that, right? That is that simple.
One of my players did this thing where I had a map I had created, where just like a picture of what an area what it was, and then he went and grabbed the image and somehow found some system where he could put a grid on it, put on a grid, and literally just created a VTT for us in the middle of the game. And
why not?
I mean, it worked. I don't know how he did it, but it was surprisingly effective when we did that. Keenan,
I think I'm just lazy,
but be part of the show.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
she won't.
My cat's old and sleeping.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah, I was actually rather impressed with your 3D printed stuff, Greg, because it seemed unsustainable to keep doing that. But
it was.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I had 3 cameras set up: one for the battle map, one for my face, and one for the dice roller. All just composed into one screen.
Well, I believe the one with the map was the cat cam.
Yeah.
All right. So I can show you guys something.
Sure.
All right. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see if this works, huh?
You just click on the present.
Share screen.
Nope. Camera can't reach. I was going to do a cat cam.
All right. How's that coming across?
We see you, Keenan.
Oh, you have to put on. Hold on. There you go.
There we go.
There we are.
Oh, is this your TailSpire map?
This is a TailSpire map.
This is way more involved than the one you showed me, Keenan.
Is it? Oh, well, okay. Hang on a second. Why don't I,
how many of these have you made so far?
I'm going to add some light to the. How many have I made? I don't even know.
Yeah.
There we go. We've changed the lighting a little bit so you guys can see.
Yeah. Are these prefabs? Like prefabs you're pulling in to do things?
More exposure? There we go. This is not a prefab. This is something I built piece by piece.
Yeah, see, I don't think I'd have the patience for this.
So the way my campaign works is the players either come down this set of stairs and arrive at this place and are fighting a fortress full of undead creatures.
As you do.
Or they arrive through this sort of underground river network. And then they have to assault it from the other direction.
This looks really awesome, I'll say. This would be fun to be part of.
But I don't really have to think about that, right? I can produce the environment, and then I can just sort of let the players even sometimes decide what their objectives are. Like they'll look at this, and sometimes they'll say, you know what? We don't want to fight our way through that. It doesn't matter what loot there is there. We're just going to climb up this cliff face.
Well,
the
question I have about this, though, is there should be a fog of war component because ideally you would drop them in here at a location like the docks, right? and they should only be able to see what their characters can see from the docks.
Right.
Can you do that?
Yes, currently they're working on their fog of war system.
Okay.
Hopefully they'll have a better one soon. Right now you can block out chunks of the map and just hide everything inside of that chunk.
Okay.
Here, I can actually show you how that works. So I go into our build mode here.
This has got dark.
And I create a hide volume.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Keenan, you have a lot of minis on that board.
I do have a lot of minis on this board, yes.
This is fine.
Look at how much crazy crap the players are going to have to fight through.
Yeah, it's an overwhelmingly bad. That's a lot. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? No,
which is why
that's
the
a lot of
players
fireballs.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, part of the point of something like this is that it kind of runs the wizards out of fireballs, and then they have to come up with different solutions.
Yeah. No, I like that.
That's one of the design challenges. I actually have to think about that, because the fights sometimes don't get interesting until the players are running out of resources.
Yeah.
So I have to set things up so that the players do run out of resources. So they come in swinging, they see big groups of undead, and they say, "Oh, that's easy. Fireball.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You can do that one more time today before you need a long rest.
Yeah.
What are you going to do the third time that you run into a group like that, or the fourth, or the fifth?"
Well, that was kind of the point of that paladin thing I was doing with you guys, where I had like the 3 new paladin classes I created, and I was having you, Chaz, and my friend Mike playing those characters, and I was deliberately trying to run you guys out of resources to have that exact scenario.
Yeah. Which is interesting. You want to, in my opinion, I think part of, let's see, what was it? Hide volumes, create a hide volume. That's what I wanted to show you, how to, there we go. So there's a cubic chunk of the map, and I can change what it is, and I could say, okay, that part of the map is hidden from the players. And then when I want to reveal it, I hit reveal, and then it's visible.
Okay.
So it's that, which is clunky, right? But it works. So you do have a fog of war system. It's just not a great
What
one.
level are your players going to be in this?
By the time they get here, 8th or 9th level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is you playing Pathfinder 2nd edition?
D&D 5e was what this was designed for originally. Although I now have a Pathfinder group. I have 2 D&D groups running through this campaign and a Pathfinder group. And I'm having to learn how to retune everything to work with Pathfinder.
Mm-hmm. Is this Pathfinder 1 or 2?
2.
Number 2, okay.
Yeah. I like the old Pathfinder.
Yeah.
But
the first edition?
Yeah.
There's this creep factor that goes on with any system. You know, if you look back at 3.5 or old Pathfinder, there's so much stuff. There's so many different books. If you let the players get away with it, they will create unbelievably weirdly min-maxed characters that can take whole.
The problem with Pathfinder is it had gotten away from the creators of it. Like it had, there was so much stuff in the game that they created that they weren't able to keep track of the combos anymore. It was the same problem that Magic the Gathering was having. Is there's just, it had gotten bigger than the people that created it.
Yeah,
I will say this about Pathfinder. To me, it felt like if you don't min-max, your character's going to be lame and useless as well. Because it's like, oh, I want to be good at perception. Well, I didn't do the right thing. So the guy who did do good things with perception has plus 40, and I'm left with a good plus 10. It's like, okay.
See, and I don't like that, because I think that there should not be such a thing as a good like character build.
Yeah.
Like you any collection of abilities should matter. Like if you're a generalist, you should be just as valuable as the guy that min-maxed.
I do like that you can get really good at something. I do feel like 5e misses that to some degree. But I understand what you're saying too. I don't know how to fix it.
One of these days, I kind of want to get together with a bunch of other DMs and play a game. Either DM it or play it. I don't care which, but where we actually run deliberately underpowered characters just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
And deliberately handicap ourselves.
Riffs,
So
and we're
let's-
vagabonds and city rats. It'll be great.
Let's all roll up characters. And instead of 4d6 drop 1, we're just going to go d20 down the line and then just figure out how to play with whatever we come up with.
Well, you're
Sounds like
basically
Shadow
describing
I feel like you
the original Dungeons and Dragons, Keenan.
Yeah.
Like that's how it was
Yeah.
with AD&D.
I feel like you need to play a level 0 Gauntlet Shadow Dark.
Oh God,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
And
no.
Maybe,
We've done it.
I actually
Yeah.
tried to design something like that. I wanted to, I created a, which I haven't finished it, but I created a sort of a homebrew system called, Wildermen.
Wilderman, yeah.
Wilderman was fun because it was this conception of a fantasy world, in its very early stages. So imagine mankind living in a world where there aren't any magical constructs, like orcs don't exist yet because the evil wizard who created orcs didn't create the orcs yet.
It's like a Conan thing you came up with.
The dragons and the giants are still at war with each other, and humanity is in some little river valley somewhere, trying to scratch out a living, and, ordinary wolves and things are still a major threat. We're just figuring out pottery right now, and that's where we're at as a people.
Yeah.
So I created,
go ahead.
so I created a system that made for very underpowered and kind of fragile characters that were also kind of interchangeable. Like it was very quick to roll up a new character.
Well, that's what Shadow Dark is. Yeah, I think you might like Shadow Dark if you like that.
Gee, maybe I should look at Shadow Dark. Okay.
But
I think we're getting a little off the rails.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're not
it's way off the
really-
rails.
this episode did not go where I wanted it to go.
Do you mean
yes.
the podcast episode about derailing is getting derailed?
what?
Yeah, it was not the conversation I was hoping for.
Topics went wild.
Yeah. Topics going wild. Yeah, that's the
Topics
episode.
gone wild.
Because okay.
It's okay, Keenan. It's fine.
You taking it back? You trying to wrap it back to the beginning?
In retrospect, I should have seen this coming. So
It's because I'm a little kid who wants to show off his cool toys and talk about how awesome he is. I'm sorry.
yeah.
The key thing that we're talking about here is how smart or very well informed players like Woody coming into a new DM's campaign can run things off the rails.
And
Absolutely.
prejudices against liches.
And
Yeah.
prejudice
Yeah.
against liches.
Well,
Who says
think
all
it's-
the liches have to be evil?
Right?
Well, like for me, the point is like, 'cause I've been in this situation many times that I did to you, but it's been very different because I've always kind of been in a senior position, and you had a person from a senior position come into a campaign where there was like nobody at the table with my level of skill or knowledge, and it was extremely easy for me to take control from you, and
Yeah.
and,
No one's
and-
going to be like, I don't know. They're going to be like, oh, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely, I
What he
did.
did.
Well, the part about that was actually the most disturbing to me was that nobody at the table was operating with a gamer's
Here,
viewpoint.
we don't need this anymore. We're gonna go ahead.
Yeah,
Like
you can
the entire group of people were just being as rational and reasonable as they would be in their real life. That it never occurred to them that anybody they were dealing with was going to be suspicious or deceitful. They were walking up to people, these lords or heads of guilds, and being just absolutely like rational about everything, and they were getting rational responses in return. It's like, no, this is
What I'm hearing is your character was the paranoid one.
yeah. He was actually,
He's
but
a
like,
cynical
yeah.
Sally
no,
coming in here.
I realized very quickly I needed to throw a hand grenade in here somewhere and
A holy
shake
hand
things
grenade?
up. Yeah. So what was that, Greg?
A holy hand grenade?
Oh yes, yeah.
Well,
But-
yeah, and when you do have a situation like that, it's important to not have too much ego. You know, as a DM, like the worst thing you can do with a sort of a naturally grown, gardened story is clamp down on it really hard and say, "No, you can't change anything. This is my toy," and
But
not let anybody.
it isn't though.
Exactly, it's not your toy. It's
Yeah.
you're the toy maker and it's their toy. So let the people play with it. And more advanced players are going to play with the toy in more advanced ways. Okay.
Well,
all right.
Well,
you're going to have to deal with that.
Well, it's kind of like a democracy, but if you total up the votes, the GM only gets 2 votes. They all get 1. They still outvote you. Yeah. So
yeah, or you could say, no, rocks fall. The lich is good. All the liches in my campaign are good because the rocks fell. And there you go.
Well, you absolutely could have done that.
I could have.
Yeah.
And you know what? It wouldn't have been as fun for me or for anybody else.
Well, it was interesting to me how easily I was able to turn their opinion.
Yeah.
It also made sense to me. Like, we've got this one good lich. A good lich is a serious anomaly. Yeah. You're not supposed to have those. You're not supposed to have those at all. I was already breaking rules just having one of those. To have another one that the good lich is associating with, and that breaks all kinds of rules. And now the lich is playing time fuckery games, and oh boy.
Yeah, I think it was actually a condemnation of the other lich, the fact that he was so stupid as to fall for the other guy's bullshit. Like, the guy doing the time port is like, yeah, it's cool. Okay, sure.
True enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the takeaway here, Woody, Keenan? What would you?
Well,
if you were to wrap it up in 2 sentences.
Yeah. Well, the takeaway is unfortunately,
how long have we been talking?
We've about 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
40 minutes.
Unfortunately, Mark hasn't got to interject at any point in this. So,
how long are these episodes supposed to be? I'm sorry.
We just got a double episode. It's okay. Some of these episodes can be longer. We just
supersized episode.
If you want to edit half of this out, that's fine by me.
That sounds like too much effort.
Because there's rambling going on.
Yeah, there's a bit of rambling.
I will say this from looking at other game systems, talking about improvising with players and stuff. I think like a extreme example of that takes away the curtain that you guys probably do already with your stories. Mm-hmm. You just don't let the players know. It's like Bump in the Dark, which is a game that's Forge in Dark, Blades in Dark related, and their whole thing is they're monster hunters, and what the monster is. And the result of the mystery is actually up to the players to figure out in a way. And the GM
about this,
and the GM kind of goes, "You're right." It kind of there's a little bit of a system in there to kind of decide, but all their clues come together and they decide out of those clues of what the players think it is, and so the players are instrumental because the GM actually doesn't know what the monster is. They're just set up clues and go with what the players think that it is. So that's like an extreme example with kind of what we all do to a certain degree, I think, in GMing a little bit. So
yeah, I don't know. I think,
I mean, we probably have monster stats that are ready to go. But D&D.
Well, we've said it before. It's easy to improvise monsters. Just take any monster that flavorly makes sense and then move the numbers up and down. As needed.
Pretty much.
Or you can take a monster and you skin it into something else.
Yep.
Easily enough.
Yeah.
It's very easy to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't let a monster die until the players do something awesome.
You wouldn't be the only one to pull that one. Yeah,
unless it's Vicious Mockery, because that's just awesome when Vicious Mockery kills a monster.
Agreed. I love that. I would say, I don't know, the main takeaway I have, you guys all watched Firefly back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Remember when Wash was up there in the pilot seat and he was playing with these plastic dinosaurs and he was like, ah, and then, curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal. Like it was cute, right? But the little plastic fucking monsters are, that's what we're doing. It's like advanced in terms of like the dramatic storylines and the systems and everything else. But at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're taking little plastic figures and we're going, ah, and clacking them together and going, ah. We're playing with toys, guys.
Especially the miniatures, right?
Those are not toys; they're live.
These are collectibles. These are collectibles. Yes.
If you can't be flexible about how you have fun playing with the toys, then you're going to want to pick up your toys and go home, and everybody's going to be disappointed. It's going to be sour.
Yeah.
It's not going to be fun. Let people have fun playing with the toys. And
nice.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah,
there we go.
I will say though,
and I think it's a good point. If you don't mind me saying real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
because at some point you mentioned like a riddle or something like that. Someone came up with a different idea. I've been in a game before as a player where there was maybe a riddle or something we're supposed to solve, and we were just trying every single thing we could think of, and the GM was specific, like, you're going to have to do this, in their mind, and it just took forever, and it just got so frustrating and boring at that point. So you don't want that to happen. You need to roll with it.
If you only have one solution, the players never figure it out.
No, something that seems obvious to you could be really difficult for a player to figure out.
Well, I will say that, just kind of where for me where all this kind of ends up is that, as a GM, you have to be bringing in more people periodically. You have to you can't let your group shrink too much, or the game just dies. And you do have to be prepared to pivot and change, because the minute you bring in a new player, that player brings a new perspective, and that perspective changes everything. And there's no way the campaign continues on the way it was, because this new person's now going to influence everything that goes forward from like when we brought Amelia in to replace Brandon in our Cyber Symbiosis campaign, and the first thing she did was decided to infiltrate the base of these thieves by dressing up as a Girl Scout, which absolutely nobody would have ever thought of that before.
I've done it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
You know what? Here's what I'll say. I'm gonna encapsulate this.
Okay, good.
If D&D is the subtle art of playing with toys as an adult, then when somebody brings something unexpected to your table, just treat it like they brought a new toy to you.
Yeah.
It's a new thing to play with. Yeah, okay, you weren't expecting that, but be open to playing with it.
Yeah. I'm feeling it.
There you go.
All right. So the takeaway is always be open to playing with people who join
and
your
their
group.
toys.
Yeah. And their toys.
Yeah. And
there you go.
And their toys. Yes.
Anyway, they want to.
Toys.
It's great.
Yeah.
They come up with
SFW toys only.
There you go.
Yep. If they bring their Transformers over, it's cool to play with their Transformers. Yes.
They bring their dildos, leave them at home.
There you go.
They'll stay in the car.
Supposed to stay in the windows, Greg. In the windows.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. We're past the first 5 minutes of the episode.
So
all right. We got 3 more topics to get through here. So I think we have our episode.
All righty.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again for everybody joining us for another Art of the Game. Thank you for Keenan for being a guest on it.
Hey.
And everybody, make sure if you liked it, like it, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us some stories about where players maybe derailed your campaign and how you adjusted to that.
And we did not take payments from TailSpire for that product placement.
We did not. It looks cool. I'm going to check it out.
But they can totally pay us if they want to.
It was just an object example, but it's one of the really good VTDs out there. I recommend it.
Nice. All right. And don't forget, there's a playlist, lots of episodes, Art of Game, other shows, all that good stuff. So thanks again, everybody. And until next time.
Keep building.
Keenan's theme song.
When the dice roll high, we touch the sky. But when they crash, it's a barely laugh. Genre play, lighting the way. Our tales unleash the wild rampage.